Julieta Garcia. Born in a Texas border town, Dr. Julieta Garcia became the first in her family to graduate from college and the first Mexican-American woman to lead an American college or university. Over 2 decades, she transformed her hometown, University of Texas Brownsville, into a center of excellence for countless students who were inspired by her example. A trailblazer and a mentor, Dr. Garcia is considered one of our nation's top university administrators who understands the power of education as the great equalizer in America.
It is not a good day to be a prime minister throughout the world. The port making moves. Dr. Julieta Garcia at the White House, the DOJ investigating Governor Abbott, and sleeping with the boss. It is Friday, July 8th, 7:04 a.m. This is Frankie Olivo. And we are on live with Good Morning Brownsville. Yeah, I had little technical difficulties as always, as one could relate. You just never know what you're going to get with technology nowadays. But thank you so much for your time and your attention. Now, something a little bit different, and I understand that the reason why you tune in every day is for the weather. Unfortunately, I got no good news for the weather. It's going to be hot. So if you can, as much as possible, make sure you go out and go out to the island and get some rays as much as possible. It has not been a good week for prime ministers. We had Boris Johnson, the prime minister from the United Kingdom, who recently resigned. This was after over 20 of his cabinet members abruptly resigned, and many individuals had questioned the reasons and motives behind this resignation. There have been several scandals throughout the tenure of Boris Johnson. One of the main ones was that his hairdresser got pregnant, and to try and hush the crowd, he moved her off back to her homeland in Canada. There was also a cabinet member who was alleged to have groped men, and Boris and his office did nothing about it. And again, he was forced technically to resign. And just last night, we had the former prime minister of Japan, who was at a mini rally, who was encouraging individuals to vote for his party, and he was assassinated late last night. It is scary that we are all dealing with gun violence, and that's something that is very scary, because one would think that it is the United States that has a problem with guns. And the interesting thing about this was how blatant it was. He was at a campaign rally, and all of a sudden, shots were fired. And the interesting thing about this is that this was a gun that he created, that this young teenager, and I have pictures of it. I'll post on the page later. It looks like a 2-barrel musket. There it is. It's like a 2-barrel musket. But again, a scary day for the citizens of Japan, and it's not a good day. It wasn't a good day for prime ministers around the world. One, Boris Johnson did resign, and the Japanese former prime minister did succumb to his injuries of being shot. Politics has been front and center between the Democrats and Republicans, and that has been center stage in the state of Texas. We have seen how Governor Abbott has been very critical of the Democratic approach to immigration. We have seen how Governor Abbott and his Operation Lone Star, he did bus immigrants from the border and drop them off essentially in D.C. He has been very vocal and stated that this administration has open borders, and he has challenged this current administration and said, what are you going to do about it? It seems as if Governor Abbott has been held bound on making sure that this election in November is one for the ages. We have heard how he has been very vocal about building a border wall. Now, while we're not in agreement, and we have seen, being a history buff, we have seen throughout time how the Berlin Wall, the Great Wall of China, have not really, for a certain period of time, did meet their expectations. But at the end of the day, we have El Chapo Guzman, who at the end of the day, they're going to get over that wall no matter what. Well, we have seen how politics is at play. The American Civil Liberties Union, along with other immigration groups and activists, they did file a complaint with the Department of Justice against Governor Abbott's Operation Lone Star. Just a few days ago, it was announced that the migrants, that they will be deported personally to the ports of entry to make sure that they are sent back home. And this caused the Democratic Party and the Department of Justice to start investigating. They will be investigating the different approaches that were taken by Governor Abbott. And who can forget Operation Lone Star? He commanded and he ordered hundreds, if not thousands, of state troopers of the National Guard to have an active presence on the border. Again, are we living in a time where we have an open border policy? We have seen the stark contrast between the administrations. President Trump, Title 42 and stay in Mexico policy. Because of the pandemic, of course, he was able to use Title 42. But you and I have seen, being and living in a border town, we have seen the consequences and ramifications of immigration. And we do need to have a stronger grip on our borders. And again, it's politics 101. Governor Abbott did blame President Biden and his administration. Just recently, a few weeks ago, we had one of the largest smuggling events here in South Texas. It was a Brownsville man who was driving a tractor trailer, which caused the deaths of over 50 migrants. And these sad stories, we can sympathize with them. At the end of the day, they're all trying to achieve and obtain the American dream. But is this politics? Is the Democratic Party and the DOJ just trying to get back at Governor Abbott? Or is Governor Abbott infringing upon the rights of these immigrants? Again, we understand that this is a humanitarian issue. And while we are all supportive of individuals seeking that American dream, we are a nation of laws. So we do have Governor Abbott on one side and the Democratic Party, Democratic President Joe Biden and his Department of Justice. They will be investigating Governor Abbott's Operation Lone Star. Are they violating the civil rights of these migrants by taking a harder stance on immigration? And this will only play out before this election in November. So stay tuned because it's going to get very, very juicy. President Biden did award 17 people with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And we have seen throughout different administrations how they have targeted people of influence, celebrities, Nobel Peace Prize winners, individuals that have made a difference within their communities or within the world. Yesterday, President Biden did welcome 17 recipients, and one of the main stars on there was Denzel Washington. We had Simone Biles, the gymnast. We had a soccer player, Megan Rapinoe, who, because of her being vocal on equal pay for women and her support of LGBTQ rights, have allowed these individuals to gain this medal. And here locally in the Rio Grande Valley, we had two recipients. We had Raul Izaguirre from the San Juan Hidalgo area, who was part of creating a movement of La Raza. And also, more importantly, for the city of Brownsville, we had Dr. Julieta Garcia, who was a recipient and who was present with her family to receive the Medal of Freedom from President Biden. And who can forget? Who can forget the story of Dr. Julieta Garcia? She is considered as a trailblazer. She was the first woman, first in her family, who graduated college, and she did serve for over 22 years as the first female Latina president of a major institution. Now, while we are supportive, and we hope that this encourages women and minorities to, one, get their education, because that is the key. That is the key for us to get out of poverty and to be able to provide opportunities and resources for others. But also, what has transpired since then? Now, while the world was presented with a Dr. Julieta Garcia, who was the first Latina to serve in a American institution, but also what we know her is not for that same reason. Back when she was about to resign, back in 2012, 2013, right before she resigned, there was this talks of the partnership between UTB and TSC. And who can forget those glory days? We would take classes at TSC at Tandy Hall, North and South Building. And then, once we completed after a year and a half or two, we were just a hop, skipping away from the real university, from UTB, the University of Texas at Brownsville. Well, when Dr. Julieta Garcia was about to resign, there was something very interesting that was taking place. Morning, my man. Something very interesting that was taking place when she was about to retire. There was this idea that the UT system was going to take control and take over UTB and TSC. Now, here we have a fight between David and Goliath. TSC, as many consider, is a school of the people. In their connections with BISD, they work hard to try and promote education. But one could make the distinction that, the UT system, being rich of oil and gas, they are multimillionaires, 40 acres and a mule. They are one of the richest institutions in the world, not only in Texas. But we saw this fight between David and Goliath, the UT system, who's rich in oil and gas, against the Raza, which is TSC. And TSC, the majority of its students, ever since its creation and its partnership with UTB, has been individuals from Matamoros, those trying to learn a trade. And for the most part, TSC, the community college, has served as the gateway for other individuals to try and work on their GPA, try and get good grades, and hopefully make it up to those big schools such as UT, A&M, U of H, to be able to get into those prominent schools. But while the world celebrates Dr. Julieta Garcia, we remember her for another thing. She was very vocal in siding with the guerrilla that is the UT system, and they wanted for TSC to pretty much give up their property, give up their name and rights, pretty much give up everything for peanuts on the dollar. It was for individuals, and I'll be more than glad to share this. Trey Mendez, Adela Garza, I believe Mr. Rendon, and I'm forgetting one more name. There were 4 individuals that were very vocal, and they were against that separation, and they said, no. We deserve our community college. We prefer that this stay here within the people. Now, one could argue and say, why would you want to do that? Wouldn't you want to go to be under the wing of a giant that is the UT system, to be able to pump money back into this area? Well, there was a fight back in the day in 2013 for that. Now, It was Rendon. It was Mr. Rendon. Thank you so much. Now, it was the likes of Mr. Rendon, Adela Garza, and Trey Mendez that did fight against Dr. Julieta Garcia in the quest for having this community college remain with the people. So while the world celebrates Dr. Julieta Garcia as being the first Latina, first woman to lead a major institution, what we remember her here in South Texas, in the city of Brownsville, is for her trying to give the UT system, that Goliath, trying to give her a poor man's community college for peanuts on the dollar. Now, the Port of Brownsville has served its community for over 85 plus years, and we have seen how the port has been generating a lot of revenue. We have seen as of late how we have had the fortune of having great individuals in public office that have done great things for the Port of Brownsville. Just recently, there was an announcement made that the Port of Brownsville did go into an agreement with the United States Army Corporation of Engineers for this Brazos Island Harbor Channel Improvement Project. This project was supported by Congressman Filemon Vela and Vicente Gonzalez. And we have seen how the port and the members of the board and its chairman have done a great job of bringing funds down here to the Port of Brownsville to be able to create jobs, generate revenue, and increase the opportunity for our area. We have been fortunate enough to have at the helm Steve Guerra, who has done an amazing job as being chairman. And again, salutes to him and his colleagues for embarking on this great venture. And this project will increase the depths of the port by 10 feet from 42 to 52. And the idea is to allow existing industries within the Rio Grande Valley to continue expanding while also attracting new economic opportunities for this area. So the Port of Brownsville, and we salute Chairman Guerra and his colleagues on the board who have done everything possible to make sure that the Port of Brownsville is alive and well and also is generating a lot of revenue. We hope that this new project will bring a lot more jobs and provide a lot more flow to our area. And as of late, the port has been a very significant entity, not only in the state of Texas, not only in our region, but throughout the world. I forget the statistic that I was given, but the Port of Brownsville is one of the leading ports throughout the world. And that is in large part because of the individuals on the board, and more importantly, because of Steve Guerra. So salutes to Mr. Guerra and his colleagues on the Port of Brownsville for making sure that they're doing everything possible, exhausting all avenues to make sure that money is invested in our area to be able to create more jobs and more opportunity for the citizens of Brownsville. Sleeping with the boss. Now, I do want to state that, at work we spend 8 to 9 hours, depending on if we're an 8 to 5 job. But for the most part, the individuals that we work with become a second family. Why? Because we tend to spend a lot more time with them. We go through so many different experiences, and we create bonds with our fellow employees and our supervisors and our bosses that one thing leads to another. And we have heard of situations where individuals have created something more than a personal relationship, which has led to sleeping with one another, sleeping with the boss. Now, while this is not an uncommon thing, but it is always frowned upon whenever we have a CEO who is sleeping around with its employees. And again, you guessed it, Papi Musk. Papi Musk has been in the news for quite some time now. And ever since he announced that he was going to be voting Republican, he stated, watch out, they're going to come for me. These liberals, they're going to throw every story out there. And the first story that we heard about Elon Musk shortly thereafter was that he made a proposition to an employee that, I believe he exposed himself a la Frankie, and he wanted to give an airline stewardess that worked for Tesla, that worked for Starbase, SpaceX, a horse for sexual services. Now, again, that case was was thrown on the back burner. It is said that Mr. Musk did come into some sort of settlement agreement with this woman, and gave her $250,000. But nonetheless, do these situations happen where employees have sexual relationships with their bosses? Yes, it happens. It happens amongst employees, unfortunately. But what's the big deal? Well, it is important to note that one of the world's richest men is probably using his influence and his pocketbook to sleep around with who he wishes. Now, and the important thing is, and the interesting thing was that back last month, Elon Musk did state that, the U.S. birth rate has been at an all-time low. And if you look at this graph of the fertility rate throughout the history of time, we have seen how the birth rate has been declining. And there are many reasons for that, of course. Back in the day, well, my grandpa is the last one of 19, and my grandpa said, "Dijo, no había televisiones en el rancho." Well, we can understand that argument, but back in the day, individuals had lots of kids. Why? Because they had a ranch. They needed that helping hand. Now we have seen the stark contrast amongst that. As we all know, life is very, very expensive. Gas is through the roof, electronics, vehicles, anything of luxury is expensive. Having a kid is very, very expensive. And what have we seen this modern day and age, where individuals are starting to focus on their education, on their profession, and have put hey, I don't know if you heard about that, but yeah, she was offered a horse, $250,000 and a horse. Go figure, huh? But we have seen how individuals have stopped focusing on having kids at a young age, and they have prioritized on education, prioritized on their profession. And what happens after a while? They say, you know what? Having kids isn't for me. And we have seen how the decline of fertility has gone up. And of course, Papi Musk being Papi Musk, he did say, hey, I'm doing my job to try and help this underpopulation crisis. A collapsing birth rate is the biggest danger to civilization. But you know what? I'm pumping kids. I have 9 kids. So I'm doing my best. But the question remains, is this okay for a CEO, a person of authority? And we're talking about the world's richest man that lives in Starbase here, 5 minutes away from me, in my backyard. Is it okay for a person of prominence, of power, to use his influence to sleep with an employee? Now, I know I'm going in murky waters, and while we congratulate the couple for welcoming twins, and this is Elon's second set of twins. Good genes, right? But the question remains: is this an ethical violation for Elon Musk for even doing this? Should we condone this? An individual did take a jab at Elon Musk and state that, hey, just because you have your views on declining birth rates, that doesn't give you the right for you to sleep with your subordinate to try and fix this situation. But it leads us to question, is this an ethical violation? Is this an immoral thing for you to use your power, your influence on your employee? Now, it remains to be seen what will come of this. But one could make the argument that this is not a good look for Elon Musk. Now, has he been unable to keep his rocket in its shaft at SpaceX? One can argue that this is wrong in the eyes of the public. And maybe this is a PR nightmare. Why? Because this is going to lead many employees to say, oh, so that's the reason why she got that advancement. That is the reason why she got this raise. That is the reason why she was able to move up throughout Elon Musk's different businesses at a rapid pace. Could it be because she was sleeping with the boss and that allowed her first dibs at any job that she wanted. Elon Musk is currently in the works of purchasing Twitter. Right now, there is a lot of litigation going on. There is a lot of bots that he's arguing, and he is saying, you know what, it is not worth $44 billion. It is worth a lot less. Some insiders have even stated that, you know, this Twitter purchase was a sham. Elon Musk knew what he was doing. He knew that his babies were going to come. He knew that this was going to be a bad look. So what did he do? He started saying, oh, well, I'm going to buy Twitter. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Again, this is a PR nightmare for a company. Why? Because it sends the wrong message to his employees and to the world. Sleeping with the boss. Does that generate a great benefit for its employees? What are the employees saying? Of course, they're not going to say anything publicly, but you and I know, we could have an idea of what they're saying. Oh, so that's the reason why you moved up, because you gave it up. So that means that if anybody gives it up, they'll be entitled to a raise, to a promotion. Sleeping with the boss. Elon Musk did have twins with a subordinate. And the interesting thing was that it was just revealed last month because he did change the names of the twins to his name, his last name, in Travis County. So that is where his baby mama is staying, in Austin. And if you follow him on Twitter for this past year or so, he has been very active in the Austin community and has established Austin as being its second home. Sleeping with the boss. Is that right for the world's richest man to use his power and influence to sleep with an individual, knowing very well that that's going to cause a lot of questions and possibly create some turmoil amongst the companies? And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. The Department of Justice is suing and is investigating Governor Abbott for Operation Lone Star. The American Civil Liberties Union and immigration activists are questioning the motives behind Governor Abbott's hard stance on immigration. Is this a violation of people's civil rights, or is it upon the governor? Is it the role of the governor to do what the president is not doing? And that is enforcing their border security, making sure that drugs, ammunition, violent criminals are not having that easy access to jump across the border and do as they wish. It is not a good time for prime ministers throughout the world. We saw how Boris Johnson was forced to resign. And unfortunately, the tragic news that we got late last night, early this morning, was that the Japanese former prime minister was shot at a political rally. Gun violence is not only an American thing, but a worldwide issue. The Port of Brownsville making moves. That they just announced their agreement in deepening the channel from 42 to 52 feet, which will allow them to generate more traffic, bigger ships with more opportunity for the citizens of Brownsville and the Rio Grande Valley. Dr. Julieta Garcia was honored at the let's not go there. I wasn't going to go there, but you opened the door, David. I'm not going to go there. Dr. Julieta Garcia was celebrated and received the Medal of Freedom from President Biden. And while the world did celebrate Dr. Julieta Garcia, we in the city of Brownsville know her for something else. We know her for right about the time that she was about to retire. She favored UT in forcing, and I say force because that was her intention, was for TSC to give up its property, the institution. And we saw the likes of Rendon, Mendez, Garza, who stood up to the president and said, nope, this community college, TSC, belongs to the people, and we will not bend over and give it for peanuts on the dollar to the UT guerrilla that is rich in oil and gas. And sleeping with the boss. Is this an immoral thing? It looks bad. It looks bad in the eyes of the employees. It looks bad in the eyes of the world. Here we have the world's richest man who can conquest and sleep with anyone who he chooses to, it seems. But to choose an employee sends the wrong message. Why? Because we are going to hear the rumblings of amongst employees and say, oh, that's the reason why she got a job. And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. It is Friday, July 8th, 7:32 a.m. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. This segment, this show is brought to you in part by All Valley Smiles, 956-832-0050. If you need a deep cleaning, if you need to get your muela fixed, go ahead and contact our friends at All Valley Smiles. You won't be disappointed, and let them know that Frankie Joe sent you. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. I hope to see you here on Monday. Have a good weekend. God bless.